All right, let's do it.
Okay, guys, I am super excited to welcome our next guest. So let's get freaky. We have got Chris Redding with us tonight. How are you, sir?
What's good? What's good? What's good, y'all? Yo, I must say, I jumped at the chance to do this, man, because I'm like, okay, Christmas time, spooky stories. Like, I got Christian with me, my boy. I told him, I was like, listen,
Yes.
if you not asleep by the time I do this podcast, you in for a spooky story. So we here, man.
Is he okay to hear the scary stories?
Yeah, he's okay to hear it. He's okay to hear it. He's got things, man. So
Awesome,
for those
man.
that don't know, so I just released the album Visions of Sounds, inspired by my son Christian here, who was diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. And I was so inspired by the way he just interacts with music and like how he vibes with the music. So it inspired me so much that I created an album about it, like, just his experience. Christian is nonverbal and he expresses himself through vocal stimming, as is
Oh,
what she's
that's
doing right
awesome.
now. Yeah, yeah. He
Oh,
he
that's awesome,
he
man.
he expresses himself through vocal stimming, and I got him vocal stimming on the tracks, and so yeah, man, like he's been the main inspiration for the album. So yeah, here we
Love
are, man.
that. Love that,
And
man.
we're here in the
That's
studio in the
yeah.
sanctuary.
It's a
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
setup, man. Well, I've been listening to your
South
music.
Florida.
It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. I'm loving it. It's on,
Yeah,
it's on,
man.
it's on my playlist for sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Yeah,
when
so the album actually was put together. So I had a couple of very talented. I was very blessed to have a very talented producers on this album. Jimmy Newsoul, Carl Rubin, who is the producer on the Paint the Town Red Doja Cat single that's out right now, going crazy. Also, um, had Double A on the album. He's NBA YoungBoy, Kodak Black's producer. So yeah, a lot of talented names on the album, man. And it's just
wow.
like I was just really fortunate to really just tell my story, tell Christian's story on the album, and really do something that's never been done before. So
Yeah.
our whole movement is neurodiversity. Just celebrating neurodivergence. I myself, I was diagnosed with ADHD at 13 years old, and I just process information differently. I learn differently, and in an audio visual world, so to speak. And I just try to bring, shed light on that, and awareness about neurodiversity. So yeah, man, that's why I'm here, and that's why I do what I do.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I don't want to disrespect any guest that I've had on before, but I think you're possibly the coolest guest I've had on so far.
Hey man, I take that, man. I take that.
That's
Respect, much love to you.
that is cool. So you've always been into the music?
Always, man. And like I've been doing music for a very, very long time. I started out as a producer, working with various artists, songwriting, and then I became a dad, man. And that was like the most coolest thing that ever happened to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Becoming a dad, and it's something that I do full time. As you can see, like I create, with my little shorties in the studio, and
that's
like I
awesome.
really just love to have them a part of the whole experience, man. And so that's why we're here. Like this is my third studio album, Visions of Sounds, and it's totally inspired by fatherhood, my experience, um, with raising a neurodivergent child. And I actually have two sons, two kids, by the way. Cairo is my other boy. He's on my track. He's on the track, Beat Me Up. And, that's him talking on the track and like saying beat me up and all that cool stuff. So I just try to capture that the essence of fatherhood and just like this stage of my life and the growth behind that. So Christian he's 5, and yeah, he loves to hear a good story. So we here to tell a good spooky Christmas story.
Yes, man. Let's get into it. Let's get into
Let's
it.
get
I,
it.
I just want to say, I think it's awesome what you're doing, man. I mean, absolutely awesome. Having kids changes the game, and
Oh, absolutely.
I can already tell you're a
Absolutely.
great dad, man. That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. It's the best feeling in the world, man, to be a dad. And shout out to all my fathers out there that's that's rocking it. I think a lot of times dads don't get a lot of credit, but it's long overdue, baby. This is
Yeah,
something for not just the dads, but everyone that is just experience life, you know what I'm saying, growing up different and embracing different. Like different is okay. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, for sure, man.
It's better than okay.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great
Yeah,
message,
bro.
man. Great message. Okay, let's get
Much love.
into the freaky stories. Where does it start? Where does the paranormal start for you? Is the paranormal something you've always
You know
experienced?
what? It's something that, as believe it or not, like really always been a part of my life. Like I hear about it. Like I grew up heavy, like in the church, and like talking about like spiritual experiences. So it's something that was like not too far fetched for me. Like some people hear like about spirits and ghosts, and they feel like, oh, like yeah, maybe not. But it was something that was always like I like for a long time I didn't encounter anything, but it was always something that I thought was was real.
Yeah.
So um I remember like my grandma telling me stories like walking by like the church late at night and seeing like ghost like figures like sitting on the steps. And it was just
Wow.
kind of like, man, hearing that as a kid was like really like and, like hearing it from like the elders and your ancestors and like your grandma was like, wow, like okay, like ghosts are real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's something that I always feel like, a lot of people they have a fear of the unknown. And I always just like, well, maybe it's just something that we totally don't understand, or maybe it's just something that is just, I don't know, like a part of life. And we just experience it in the time and places that we do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of my experience with it.
Yeah. So you've always been open to the possibilities.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. What about you? What got you involved in
I've
you know this
I've
podcast and
yeah, well, I've been doing the podcast now for just over a year and a half actually. I've always been into
oh
the paranormal, man, and talking to people about their experiences. I've had experiences. So I think that helps when if you have experiences as well, you sort of know
yeah,
that there's more going on, and it's sort of anything is possible. And I just love hearing people's stories, man, and their opinions on the paranormal as well. I like people's opinions.
facts,
Everyone's got
facts,
their
facts,
own opinions and stuff, and I think that's great. I love it all, man.
facts. You know what I always thought was interesting is like the paranormal as it relates to music too. Like, you hear a lot of like stories about paranormal activity uh surrounding music, or even like the
Yeah,
embodiment of like, musicians. And like, I would say this, during my time making this album, it was very, very, it was a point where when I started, like, and I knew like what I wanted to be about. I wanted to, know it was going to be about neurodiversity and my son and my whole journey with his diagnosis, all of all that good stuff. And I was like so excited. And then it was a time that like right in the middle of the album, it got really, really scary. Like it got really, really, you know, I would say dark in the sense, because it was like it got to the point where I had this really deep introspective moment. And I really believe that that was the moment I realized, like, man, I'm working on something, or I'm doing something that's really has nothing to do with me. And I felt like almost like an out of body experience, putting this together. And
yeah,
it was like really embodying like my son, and like a lot of just a lot of the like the things that he deals with, like with overstimulation, the vocal echolalia, all of these things like started to, I feel like it started to really weigh heavy on me, and I began to like really feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it turned into a situation where, like, man, I just felt overstimulated. I felt like my mind was just like just bombarded with all of these, exploding with all these thoughts, these ideas of like what I want to do. And I just got really overwhelmed and anxious. And I really had like, I was really bad anxiety through the process of it. I get kind of like nervous talking about it because it was like so real. And it was like, it really felt like, man, this is probably what people with autism face when they get overstimulated. Because, Christian, he has a sensory processing. Um, so with his sensory processing, like he needs to feel input, or if he gets overstimulated, he reacts to like the energies in the environment. Very sensitive to it. And I feel like I started to really like experience that, and it was just like really transformative for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say it was like a spiritual moment for you? Did it sort of?
Absolutely. It was a time where when I was going through that, I didn't really realize what it was like. And again, I'm a very spiritual person as far as like, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. And so like, for me, when I'm going through, I know when I go through like these spiritual battles or these processes, and I know like, okay, I need to calm my spirit down. I need to meditate. I need to focus. I need to, but in this time, it was just like, man, like it almost felt like I opened up a new side of understanding and really being able to sympathize, and not just sympathize, but really just feel what my son is feeling. It felt really like a spiritual moment.
Yeah.
And now like when I talk to my wife, I'm like, yo, I like when he's overstimulated, I have a whole new level of understanding and respect, because it's like, yo, sometimes you just get overstimulated, overwhelmed in like this noisy world that we live in. And you need those moments where you have to like, okay, let me check, my energy, and what I'm feeling inside, and let me regulate. You know what I'm saying? Let me self-regulate. And yeah, man, I think that that's all a part of like the supernatural, if you will. You know what
Yeah,
I'm
for
saying?
sure. Yeah, 100%, man. I feel like we're put on paths sometimes. We're put on journeys, and I think that could be a part of it as well. Like you are where you're meant to be. You're doing what you're meant to be doing, and it's special, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I think it gets kind of scary, like when you really realize this is my calling. This is like something I'm really called to do. I'm meant to do. Like you're faced with purpose, because
Yeah,
some things we do, like I ain't gonna lie. Like I like making music. Like I do it for fun. Like I do it. I love it.
yeah,
But there's also this element of like, all right, now I'm doing this now out of purpose. And that moment, when you have that moment of realization, and sometimes it can be a little scary, because you're like, wow, I never knew that I could, like, I'm actually a voice, in this area. I'm actually, a person of influence. I'm actually someone people listen to and that can relate to, and I can share my story and it can inspire people. That's on a whole nother level.
yeah, man. Well, you're very good at what you do. I got to say that. So your music is awesome. So
Thank you, bro.
you're doing amazing stuff, man.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it, man. So another thing that I kind of talk about, um, just like is my experience as an artist, is that I also have synesthesia, so which is a part of it. It can be a trait of ADHD, but synesthesia is it's like almost kind of like a different perspective on the senses. So like I can hear sounds, and then I also see pictures and colors. So certain sounds,
Wow.
and yeah, yeah, certain sounds and certain songs even, um, lyrics, music, when I hear it, it instantly, especially if I'm really inspired by it, it instantly starts like just casting like these images and visuals and like flickers of light and color. And I think that's also like kind of a supernatural experience as well. So,
Yeah,
and
man.
that, yeah. So, and so like, I didn't realize that that was something that I had for a long time. I thought it was just kind of natural, like normal. But I used to tell my cousin, I used to be like, what color is this song? And he'll look at me like, what? Like, what color is this? Like, what colors do you see? And yeah, man, that's part of it, you
Yeah,
know?
that's interesting, man. So would you
Yeah.
see, so say you see a color when a song's playing, does the whole environment around you change to that color?
So it's more so like it's like a visual in the mind.
Okay,
You
yeah.
don't necessarily actually see color, but it's so the vision in your mind is so powerful and like so convincing that you can identify the colors. Like you say, no, this is red. This is bright. This is dark. And you hear that a lot, even with in music and music composition. There's bright sounding sounds. There's darker sounds, and but being able to really identify like a mood by color and by with a visual is something that I can see from start to finish.
That's interesting, man. Yeah. And
Yeah, yeah, man.
that's going deeper than just the music, isn't it? I mean, yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. So let's
Awesome
get into
stuff,
this
man.
ghost story, bro.
Yeah, let's
I'm excited, bro.
go. So
I'm
is
excited,
this
bro.
something that happened to you?
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. So I'm gonna give a little context, right? You listening, Christian? You ready? All right. I don't think I ever told this story on camera. Like I
Oh
never
wow.
told it, but it's so funny. Like it's actually funny. Like it's funny, but it's also kind of freaky. Like so, my cousin who's on the album Double A, he's a Grammy award-winning producer now. He is a top Billboard 100 double platinum, like you name it. Like he's like a little the goat, man. He's a young goat, bro. Like he's doing this thing in the music industry, and he blessed me on my album with track called Melodies for Heaven. He's also a very dope artist. Anyway, me and him, we used to we like growing up, we don't even we're brothers basically. Like we like two peas in the pod. You couldn't split us up. And like what we used to do growing up is we used to go to thrift stores. We actually like wrote songs about like going to the thrift store, and we used to find like these very, very exotic wooden like pieces. Like it was funny because like we wrote a song called Jungle on My Neck, and like it's about these African wooden necklaces that we kept finding. It was so weird. Like we'll go every time we go to the thrift store, we'll find one almost identical. But it's not what the story is about. But we would find these necklaces and we was like wearing them and stuff like that. But anyway, before that, we would go and we would like, basically would, dig crates. So we would find like these old tapes, old records, old CDs and stuff like that, and we'll try to like sample them, like old music. Because back in the day, you didn't really, you couldn't. It wasn't YouTube. You couldn't go like Spotify or whatever like that. It was just like you had to like literally have an old tape. We had a little sampler, a little tape recorder that we would go and we would like find these old records and old tapes and old, whatever CDs, and we would literally sample them. So thrift shop, we found this old, it seems like it was like you couldn't even see the name on this tape. It was like almost like kind of scratched off. And it was an old gospel album, like sound like a gospel blues album, like artist I never heard of. I wish I knew the artist. I never heard of it. But and to this day. And we were like just it's like sometime on Friday night, we were just like riding in the car and we'll just like vibe out. It was like my other homie was with us, D-Bank, and like we used to just slide out in the car, like listen to these old records, and like, okay, this dope. If it wasn't dope, we'll toss it. Like, yeah, we'll take this home, we'll sample it, da 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 da. So it's like 2 a.m. in the morning, and it's around Christmas time. 2 a.m. in the morning, we just sliding listening to these old records that we found at the thrift store. Then all of a sudden, it's just like this. We pop in this gospel. It's like an old timey blues gospel, like blues inspired gospel album, and we just listening to it like, And then all of a sudden, the tape starts spinning backwards. It just started going, and like we like, yo, that's like okay, the tape messed up. That's what we thinking. And then all of a sudden, the tape was like saying something like, "Hobbity hypnosis." Like I was like, what is what? So this it is so funny because like we still talk about this to this day. So then the lights start flickering in the car. The gears start shifting. Like we driving now. Keep in mind, we in like a 94 Chevy. Bro, the gears start shifting in the car. The lights flickering, stuff, the windows stopped rolling like they was like, now granted, it was a 94 Chevy Caprice. But everything was just freaking out at one point, bro. So it got so bad, and like it like at this time, like we just started feeling like just heaviness, like the hairs on our arms just like start standing up. And I was like, yo, like we really is like, what's going on? Like it's just like it felt like the whole car was like being hijacked by whatever this music, it was this spirit. I don't know what it was. Like we started freaking out, bro. And again, it's like 2 a.m. We like, I think we out like looking at Christmas lights or something. And bro, when I tell you everything just started just freaking out in the car. And we was like kind of like stuck to the seat, like all of a sudden, like it's like you just felt this heaviness, almost like we was on a gravitron, like. And then for like the tape started spinning backwards. It was like saying like all this, like it wasn't saying nothing crazy, but it sounded like something that was like something hypnosis. And yo, we stopped that tape. We stopped that tape, bro, and we threw it out the car. It was like, yo, did you feel that? Did you feel that? As soon as we threw it out the car, everything went back to normal, bro.
Wow, man.
And I was like, there's no way you can explain that. Ain't no way you can explain that, bro. But it was so weird, bro. And to this day, Double A, he will co-sign this story. He'll tell you. That's my cousin. Double A, my brother. He will tell you this is what happened. And it was crazy, bro. It was
man.
Nuts.
Was that in New York or was that in Florida?
That was in Florida, man.
Wow, man.
OG. Yeah, we was in the OG Chevy Caprice, man.
Man.
Like, yeah, bro. That's pretty wild, right?
Could you hear, could you make out anything that the tape was saying?
All we was hearing, it was like, it just first it sounded like just reverse. And then we just kept hearing this like sound. It sounded like he was saying something hypnosis, something. It sounded like something it was like, I'm gonna tell you what it sounded like. It was like holiday hypnosis.
Wow, man.
That's what it sounded like. Holiday hypnosis.
And
to this day, we say that as a joke to each other. Like, we're like, holiday hypnosis.
But the fact that the car's reacting to it as well, and the lights are going off in the car and the windows are going, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, bro. It was like everything at once. At first, mind you, it was a 94 Chevy Caprice. Sometimes my windows didn't roll. But in this moment, oh, look, he's falling asleep. He's out of here.
Oh, bless, man.
He out of here. He wasn't phased by that story at all. But no, it was like a 94 Chevy Caprice, mind you. You remember the 94 Chevy Caprices, the long, man, like OG car. Like I used to get stopped every night by police in that car, like every night. Because it's like it's kind of a sketchy ride.
Yeah.
But bro, when I tell you in that car, when we put that tape in, everything started to blank out. You know them cars old school, but they don't, you know what I'm saying? They last forever.
Yeah.
So everything started back, the car started to shift gears, lights were flickering on and off. We felt like we were stuck to the seats. It was it was wild, bro.
Yeah,
It was
man.
wild. And it was like a good like we was just right. It was like a good 5 minutes. Everything was like just flickering. It was, and then like the tape just felt like it was like yelling at us. It was like something hardly hypnosis. And
I
we was
don't
like,
blame you
yo,
for
and we
throwing the
took
tape
it and
out.
we threw it.
Yeah.
We threw it out the car. But other than that, it was a gospel album. Like it was actually like I remember it was straight. It was actually like like we grew up in the church, so like stuff like that. It was freaky, but it didn't really like. We just like, man, look, it ain't really phase us like that. We was just like, that was weird though.
Yeah.
And man, it was. We just got rid of the tape, and as soon as we threw it out, bro, everything went back to normal.
That's
It was
weird,
like,
man.
okay, that was strange.
It would have been interesting to see. I know probably maybe not a good idea, but interested to see what would have happened if you just kept listening to the tape. I mean, who knows? Who knows where it could have gone? But man,
Who knows? Who knows, man?
wow.
Maybe we would have
That's a
went
cool
to
experience though, man.
maybe we would went to a portal.
Yeah, man, who knows? I mean,
Bro, I didn't want to stick around and find out. That's for
yeah.
sure.
Well, I think you
And
made
it
the
was
right move.
and it was Christmas time. It was around Christmas time. So like I remember like we was just riding around listening to lights. I mean, listening to lights. Look, that's my synesthesia. Um, we were riding around looking at lights and just like, just chilling, like listening to old records.
Yeah,
And it was like 2 a.m., bro, and it just hit. And it was like I there was no explanation. And to this day, we still laugh about that. Me and my brother Double A.
yeah.
We
That's
still laugh
awesome, man.
about that.
That's awesome. I know
Yeah,
you
man.
said it was gospel, but do you know who the artists were on the record?
I don't. I wish I would. It was like all I remember it was a gospel blues album.
Yeah,
It was like it sounded like old timey blues, but like gospel kind of feel. And it was like we were vibing out to it for like a good minute, and then it just started like
that's weird,
start
man.
taking start in the trance.
Yeah,
But I would say maybe it did work out because both of us to this day we're still in the music. I just put out my third album.
yeah,
My
man.
cousin Double A that was there, he just won a Grammy last year.
That's
So
awesome.
like it worked out. Like maybe it was it was something we didn't know.
That's
you know?
awesome, man. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
man.
Well, that's a cool experience, though. Thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
man.
And it was
Yeah.
around Christmas time.
And it was around Christmas time. It was around Christmas time. So that's my Christmas
Yeah, yeah.
spooktacular.
Wow. Have you had
Yeah,
any
man.
other paranormal experiences?
I must say, one time, one time, right? This was when I was like in college, and I was on a date with this girl, and she told me when we were riding in the car, I literally picked her up. It's not really that but I guess it was her experience. So I picked this girl up. We're going on a date, and like I just picked her up. We're like maybe I don't know, like 5, 10 minutes away from her house, and we're like going to like I don't know, like the movies or whatever. And she started to tell me, she was just like, yeah, like there's this doll that I had at my house that my parents, I think again, found it at a thrift store or something like that. And she's like, and it was in my room, and then all of a sudden, like the doll started to like look at me and talk to me. And first I looked at her and I was like, what? Like I was just like, chill out, like that. And she said, no, I'm serious. And then like she really started to like get into the story. I was like, yo, chill out. She was
Whoa.
like, nah, the dog. She's like, we threw it out. We threw it out. And then like a couple of days after we threw it out, it showed up again in my room. And like she was like dead serious telling me this story. And you know what I did? It's so funny. I told the story to my wife, and she's like dying laughing. This is the first date with this chick. Like,
Yeah, man.
bro, she told me that, and when she told me like the dog, she threw it out, and then it was back in the house. I turned the car around. I turned the car. I was like, "Yo, I ain't with that."
No, no,
I
that's not.
I took her right back home, bro. I
That's
was
not a
like,
good.
"Yo,"
That's not a
I was
good
like,
thing to say on a first
that's
date.
shit. But I ain't with that, shawty. Yo, that's not a good first impression
No,
on the.
man. No. I
That's not
mean,
a good first impression. Listen, anybody watching this, if you're going on a first date, it's probably not a
yeah,
good idea to tell like a paranormal story.
yeah,
It was a first date,
yeah.
and this happened. I turned the car around and I dropped
Save
shawty
it
back
for
off.
the podcast. Save it for Let's Get Freaky. Not for the first date. It's not
Not for the
gonna
first date.
unless
You
unless
know
you're
what I'm
with
saying?
a paranormal geek like me. You're not gonna
I
like
know.
that sort of thing.
I think paranormal stories they they should be told,
Yeah,
like tell them, pass it down like oral traditions.
yeah.
But probably not on the first date.
No, no, man. Especially not moving dolls. Moving
Uh-uh.
dolls, especially. There's something about that, man. That freak. I watched Child's Play when I was 4, and there's something
Oh,
about dolls and toys, like little freaky toys. Don't like it, man. I've had people on the show that
yeah.
have had toys that have moved and come to life and stuff.
On the show?
Yeah, people have had experiences. One of my good friends doesn't.
That's wild.
He's into the paranormal, but he's not massively into the power. I've asked him if he's had experiences, and he had an experience when he was a young boy. I think he was like 5 or 6, wherever he was. He said he woke up during the night, went to the toilet, came back to his room, and all these toys were floating in the air in his bedroom, and then just yeah, I mean,
Nah,
freaky
I ain't with
stuff,
it.
man. Yeah. And he's like, apart
That's
from
what I
that,
would have done. That's why I would have took them toys. I
yeah,
would have, it would have been a campfire
see
that
you
night
later. Yeah.
selling. But no, for real though, like I in the supernatural, like yeah, I believe in the supernatural world, but I think that ultimately spirits they can't harm you. Like when you come across like for me that like when you come across spiritual activity like that, you definitely got to tap into your faith and because it's like maybe something is trying to tell you something, maybe it's a, warning or something, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
you got to take heed. You got to just see like, okay, like, why am I being interrupted right now with this? I mean, I think everybody's kind of had some level of paranormal experience. Like, like I think everybody has had that dream where you feel like you can't wake up and you're getting beat up in your sleep or something like that.
yeah, man.
And you feel
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying? You just gotta wake up and pray that away, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah,
At least that's what I do.
yeah, yeah. You're right. I think most people, even people that would say they're not into the paranormal, or they don't believe the paranormal, have had some sort of experience. Like, there's very rare that you meet someone that's not experienced anything or doesn't know anyone that's experienced anything. I think
Yeah.
it's a lot more common than we think.
Yeah, it is. No, facts. That's real.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
man.
just think that how do you feel about aliens though? Do
I've
you think
seen
that's like
I've seen UFOs myself, things in the sky that
wow?
I can't explain. I've seen, yeah. I've seen weird
Wow.
shapes in the sky. And when I was 14, me and my brother and a few friends saw something in the sky that looked like a building. It looked like an office block, but in the sky, basically. And it was quite far in the distance, and we were quite young. But it was like an orangey sort of color, and it was really weird. And so I think there's things out there, whether they're, I don't know, secret government um, weapons that they've got that they won't tell us, or whether it's something from another dimension or from outer space. I don't know what it is, but I think there's stuff out there, man. What's your
No, I
thoughts on
think
that?
it's possible. I think it's definitely possible. I think it's like, I've been seeing like a lot of stuff in the news about aliens, and I'm not saying like I'm not an enthusiast on aliens. I'm not like one that says, "Oh yeah, there's life beyond." Like like I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's possible. I feel like we live in a big universe, and we're just a small speck, and of course, there has to be something else out there. Um, my thing is, and I kind of always talk to my wife about this. If there are aliens out there, like, are they really trying to make peace with us, or are they like really like, yo, they light years or behind us? We just gotta conquer, take over. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
that's the real question.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's the
Because
thing.
when you think about it, that's the story of like human beings. Like we've all like anytime there was like exploration, we go to another country.
Yeah,
There's like always this element of like, okay, I need to dominate them
yeah,
before they
yeah,
try to dominate me. And I
yeah,
and I, I just feel like I hope that I just hope like for humanity's sake, like we can get beyond that. We could just all like it could just be about love. Like, you know what I'm saying? We come together and that's
yeah,
ideal. But the reality is like, man, it's possibility. It could be like, yo, we need to go there and take all their resources, and it just could be that. And also, what is your thoughts on if there are aliens? Do you think they look weird? Do you think they look like these beings that look stupid? I think that if they're aliens, they look just like us.
yeah. I think that's a possibility. I think going by talking to people that have seen these things and stuff, I feel like there's different types. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I think there's different types, and it's difficult. It's very difficult because obviously no one really knows exactly what these things are. But I feel like there's so many different encounters. Some people see the greys. There's all different types, man. But yeah, I mean, is it us in the future? Is that a possibility? It could be the future
Bro, you know
us.
what? I've heard bro, I kid you not, I heard a story like that and it blew my mind. Forgot where I saw this, maybe like the History Channel or something like that. It was like
Ancient aliens.
basically, yeah, but it was like no, like this security guard saw like, a ship, and there was like a computer code on it, and if he encrypted it with like, basic code today, and it was like it said basically a year. It was just like a year that was like 20, I don't know, 70, something like that. It sounds like wow, but he basically said that these aliens are just time travelers. Like they came through what you call a I forgot what is it. It's like and Albert Einstein actually proved this to be true. Like there's like these like these light year time warps in space.
Okay,
And
yeah,
see, if
yeah,
you actually hit one, you
yeah,
travel in time. But it's about like navigating through like these warps, like because essentially, like when you look at the universe, you look at the distance is measured in, light years. And the only way you were able to travel through light years if you hit these time lapse, these time warps in space. And some of them even here on the earth, and like you're able to skip and jump into time. But the
yeah,
key
man.
is like, how do you get back? Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah,
That's the crazy thing. You don't want to jump like 100 years ahead and then like you can't get back.
yeah, yeah. I'm not sure I'd want. I'm not sure I'd want to try it. Would you go to
Yeah.
space? Would you go to space if you could go to space?
I always had the conversation with my friends. I said, would you go to space, or would you go to, if you had to choose between outer space and the abyss, what would you choose? And they always say, I'd rather space because the sea, like the abyss, like it's just unknown. Like you don't know
Yeah,
what's down there, bro. It's like it could be like it's like it is. It's stuff that we never even seen. It's depths that we've never been. And I think I have to agree. I probably would rather outer space than the
Yeah.
abyss. Like I think I would choose outer space. What about you?
A tough one, man. 'Cause I think there's stuff there in outer space and in our oceans that we don't know about yet. But I don't know. It's a good question. Apparently, we only know 20% of our sea, of what's in our seas, which I find I'm not sure, but
You see?
yeah, man, it's
That's
interesting.
scary, bro.
It
The
is
sea is
scary.
freaky, bro.
It
Like,
is.
especially with that whole submarine thing, like a couple of,
Yeah,
like months ago, like that
yeah, man.
implosion, like that's crazy.
Yeah,
Like the sea, we don't know, man. Like it's depths, we don't know.
yeah. There's a
I,
lot. I
I
mean,
I would take my chances in space, I think,
yeah. Oh, I don't
over
know.
the depths of the sea.
Yeah. I mean, the sea's it's a beautiful thing, but it's a dangerous thing. And I guess
Very.
that's the same as space as well, I guess, man. I'll just stay on land.
I just stay where I'm at.
That's it. That's it, man. We'll keep it
you
safe.
know, you know. Oh, it's creatures down there that we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah.
Massive creatures. I know it.
Yeah, for sure,
You
man.
know.
For sure. What's your thought on do you know anyone that's seen Sasquatch or Bigfoot?
You
I
know,
think
they just said they had a sighting, bro. You saw that?
where was this?
Like in I think it's somewhere near Yellowstone. Like they just had a sighting of Bigfoot.
Awesome, man. Awesome. I
And
think
it was like a clear, yeah, like a clear. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it could still be somebody in a Halloween costume, but it's possible, bro.
yeah, yeah,
It's possible.
yeah,
It's oh
man.
yeah. I think it's mammals out there and animals that we haven't discovered yet, for sure.
Yeah. This is a cool world,
You
man.
know what I heard they give you money if you discover a new species.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm sure, man. Yeah, for sure.
That's wild.
Because
Like
we gotta be out there finding them, man.
I know we gotta start racking up, bro. I make that a full-time job.
Yeah.
I
So
feel
have
like I
you
got the imagination for it for sure.
yeah, yeah. So have you
Yeah,
had
man.
any other paranormal experiences, or have your family have any other experiences that you could share? I know you said
Yeah,
your grand saw
yeah,
shadows.
yeah. I'll share that one. So, all right. So in this country of United States of America, Black people, we have seen a lot of things. We've been through a lot of trauma. And a lot of the ways of like dealing with that, and a lot of our traditions, and like we have these oral traditions where we pass down stories and we share things. And I was fortunate to get to know my grandmother. My grandmother she died in 2001, the same year as the Twin Towers. Um, but my grandma lived to be 96 years old, and she would just tell these stories. I was at the time like 13 or 14 when she passed, and she would just share these stories, and they were like these oral traditions that were just like, wow, like I can't believe that. And she grew up in a very, very different time, and so is my wife's grandmother. Like my wife's grandmother was actually a sharecropper. Like that is like that was basically the next stage after slavery ended. It was basically slavery by another name. And sharecroppers were like they were like workers that didn't get paid much. They were able to live on the land and use some of the crops, but they didn't either got paid nothing at all or in very, very, very little. And in that time, there were a lot of like things like my grandmother, she grew up in that time period as well. Like there was a lot of things that she would talk about from her childhood that she would see. And my grandmother was a very spiritual woman, very like involved like in the church, and like she was like one of the founders of my church, my family church growing up, and that's been around in existence for 100 years. And she told me one time She said her and her cousin was coming home. They were like, young girls, maybe 13 or 14. This had to be in the early 1900s, you know, um, walking home from church, or walking to church, one of the two. And they saw a man in an all black suit with a top hat sitting on the church steps with his head down and a cane. And they didn't really think nothing of it because people dressed like that kind of back in those days. And she said all of a sudden the man lifted his head up and she said he had like no face. And when he lifted his head up, he stood up and he chased them away from the church.
Wow.
And yeah, and I was just like, what? And that wasn't the only paranormal story she told. She also told me another story where, they bought this old house in Palm Beach where I'm from, and it was just this beautiful, like historic old house. One of the only black architects built the house in the early 1900s. It's called the Ambrose House, and that's where my mom grew up. That's where it was like a family house for us growing up. And there was a school there in the early 1900s, and it belonged to a very wealthy African American family in the early 1900s, so to speak. And when they bought the house in the 1950s, early 1950s, my grandmother said that my aunt would come to her in the middle of the night and would always say, "Mom, it's a lady downstairs, and she's got all this stuff on her skin." And my grandma was like, "What? Like, what do you mean? It's a lady downstairs. She got all this stuff on her skin." And she went downstairs, didn't see anything. And then she came back again, says, "Mom, there's a lady downstairs. She's got burned. She's burned. Her skin's burned up." And she would keep going down there and never see the lady, never saw nothing. And then the neighbors, eventually she would start talking like, my daughter, she keeps saying something about, a lady downstairs with a burn. And the neighbors said, that house used to be a school. It was a lady, the Miss Ambrose. She was the teacher there. And she's like, and they used to have a school there. And she said the house caught on fire many years, like in the early 1920s. House caught on fire, and it was a lady burned up in the house. And they had no history, didn't know that, didn't know nothing about it prior, but she kept seeing a burn victim,
Wow,
and
man.
she said it was a lady that was burned up in the house.
Yeah.
And that was wow. That was very, very wild. And because my family, real spiritual family, you know what I'm saying? Like, and just to see that, like, wow, like that sounds like something out of a horror movie, but none of those things that they talk about, like none of them like harmed them or anything like that. It was all probably just like for like a reason, like maybe a teacher moment, education, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But in those stories, those oral traditions being passed down, you're like, wow. And that house is still there. It still exists. I was basically raised in that house. There was an old piano in that house. An old piano that I actually learned. It was the first piano that I ever touched, that I ever played. And it was from the early 1900s that was a part of the real original house. It didn't get burned up, but it was a part of the original house. And that's why I started to learn to play the piano on that very piano that was in that house.
Wow,
So
man.
yeah, man, that's pretty
That's
pretty
cool.
deep, right?
Yeah, man. Did you see anything in the house growing up? Did you get
I
any?
did. No, I didn't, but I used to hear stuff. I never saw anything. Thank God, I don't want to see nothing. I don't want to see nothing.
Yeah.
But I used to hear stuff. I used to hear. Matter of fact, my nephew, I like growing up, like we would be over there, and then we would be up, like all be upstairs, just chilling, watching TV, and I would hear the piano. I would hear the piano, like, dude, like who's
Whoa.
down there playing the piano? Go down there, nobody.
Oh man. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty freaky for sure.
chilling. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you hear the piano, you'll hear a note, dude,
Yeah.
downstairs, like, yo, who's down there playing the piano? Nobody.
Freaky stuff, man.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Hey man, you really
Awesome.
had me going to vote with these stories. I didn't even know. I thought I was gonna tell.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Is
man. I
there any
got.
more in there? Is there any more?
I think that's it. I think that's it. But
Oh,
yeah,
awesome,
bro.
man. I
Yeah,
appreciate you
but
coming on and sharing your
now
experiences, man. Awesome
I gotta
stuff.
go to sleep tonight, and I gotta think about these
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave
Nah,
the light
man. But
on.
nah,
That's
it's
what I
all
do.
fun, man.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much, brother. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your experiences, talking about your awesome work. Can you tell the listeners where they can find you?
yeah, man. You can check me out. Listen to the music. Listen to the album Visions of Sounds on my. Go to my Instagram page. Is Chris_Redding _ like Otis Redding, Redding, and which is actually Otis Redding related to my pops.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So music is in the family, man. So
Awesome.
yeah, check it out and go get the album, man. It's on Spotify. It's everywhere, man. Visions of Sounds.
Awesome, man. Awesome stuff. I'll share the links in the show description so people can find it easily as well. Awesome stuff,
Yeah,
brother.
man.
Thank you so much. Keep us
Thank
posted.
you so
If
much, bro.
anything else happens, let us know, man. Any other spooky experiences, let us know.
Will do, man. Hey, and Merry Christmas, man, to you, man.
Merry Christmas to you and your
Happy
beautiful family.
holidays, Happy New Year, all the good stuff, all the good blessings coming to you. I like what you're doing. I love the podcast. I love
Oh,
the
thank you,
vibes,
brother.
man. Keep it coming.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much, man.
All right, bro. Take care. One
God
love.
bless.
God bless.